At 9:15. All right, I think we got everything set up and started here. We make sure everything is working. Getting some people joining in. This is my first live stream, so bear with me. Wanted to do something a little bit outside of my comfort zone, which is doing a live stream, monitoring as people are coming in. If you can hear me, let me know. We'll see if it's working. Let's give it a minute. Let me exit out and try to start this over again on my end. Are you able to monitor on your side? Okay. Exit out and try to start this over again. Mute that. Okay. If anybody that's joining in can hear me, not expecting a huge turnout. First time, didn't really put anything out there. Joe Badero, Montreal. Good to see you on. Hearing me good? Awesome. That's great. All right, so I'm going to get started here. If you guys have any questions, I want to keep this relatively open conversation today. But what I wanted to really focus in on is really one coin, one use case. And this is actually about a month ago. One of my subscribers, Chuck, he's a regular viewer, gives me comments, feedback. We've communicated a bit back and forth. And so he brought up a great point that he wanted to hear about, and that really had to do with looking at the top digital assets, identifying their use case, and really getting into it from that perspective. I wanted to put a little bit of a different spin on it, though, and really identify one coin, one use. And what I mean by that is it possible that when we look at each one of these digital assets, when we look at each one of these blockchains, that really they're geared up for one particular use? Or is it possible that we can have a coin that really can do everything? And that's really what I wanted to address today. If you don't know already, this is Jeff with the HODL Report. I'm glad that you're joining me on this live stream. I do want to start out now. All of this kind of came full to light. I've been trying to figure out how to put this all together to really have this full discussion. And so as I was watching what was unfolding at the Davos World Economic Forum and the blockchain forum to follow that, CCN actually had a good article. And in the article, they quoted Glenn Hutchins, co-founder of Silver Lake Partners. And this really, kind of spoke to me when I looked at his quote and kind of brought this whole topic together for me. So he said, rather than a currency, he saw Bitcoin's role in the future more as a store of value. And let me read three of the quotes that were in the CCN article, and then we're really going to get into discuss. And I think you guys will understand also, what I'm thinking. Along these lines. But I guess to preface that, when we think about Bitcoin, and one of the directions that initially everybody was thinking that Bitcoin was going to be used as a mainstream digital asset currency for purchases online. And that's really now with this statement, the future as a store of value. Again, this goes back to my initial premise. Can it be that we have one coin, one use? So let's get into these quotes. It might be that the role of Bitcoin in the system could be to bring value back, to hold your value there while you have tokens that have other use cases. So that's number one. I think that was a great opening quote. Then second quote from Glenn Hutchins: I am much less interested in investing around Bitcoin as a currency unit or a currency equivalent, or even the blockchain as an accounting ledger. I am thinking much more about the protocols. And that's also important, the full development of where this is going. In my opinion, there's so much more to this, especially if we think about, again, one coin, one use. And the third quote from Glenn: eventually what's going to happen is you're going to put something of value in, something of value will come out the other side, and you're not going to care what the underlying technology is. And this is really the direction that we're moving in. And I think we're really rapidly seeing that transition, in particular when it comes to the RippleNet technology using XRapid and using XRP. These banks, individuals, nobody really has to know that XRP is being used as a transitional currency in the cross-border payment process. They don't need to know that the banks are using it for liquidity. What's important is that it is being used, that it will be used, and again, that interconnection of that technology, it just is going to happen. And in our everyday life for the mainstream individual, it's not going to have as much bearing. Again, think about right now in this space, it's a new space. We're the early adopters in the space, investing in the space, talking about this technology, trying to educate ourselves as much as possible about this technology. But again, the majority of the population out there, they may have heard about Bitcoin, they may have heard about digital assets, but overall they're going to go about their daily lives, and they're not going to think about the technology that's going on. Not too many people think about what it takes when you're going online, what is involved in that entire connectivity process. They just want to open up their phone and log in and open up an app. They want to go on their computer and get online, and they don't care about the technology that's really making it happen. Even if you think about from a digital processing perspective, when we're using credit cards, nobody really is thinking about what goes on after we swipe our credit card. How much time does it actually take to move the funds from the credit company to the purchaser? Is that settlement or to the seller? Is that settlement happening immediately, or is there a time lag? But for the consumer, they don't really care. The fact that the seller may be getting funding, in terms of almost like a credit until the processing is complete. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes that the mainstream don't really think about, and so that, I think, is really the point of the direction of where this technology is moving in. It's going to be behind the scenes, hidden from view, and people are going to go about their daily lives. Now, we're facing a very unique technology that's really revolutionizing how we are going to interact, how we're going to track, how we're going to communicate, how we're going to do business, bank, monitor our health, and even vote. All of this is happening right now. The technology is developing at a fairly rapid pace at this point. And so really we're expecting great things within this technology. Let me take just a second here. I need to, as this is my first live stream, I've got another screen set up, and I'm not able to monitor who's actually coming in to the live stream as we're speaking. So let me see here. Let me see if there's a way to do that easily. Doesn't look like. Okay, I'll keep monitoring it the way I am. So, all right, let's see here. Monitoring questions on another screen here. So, let's see here. We've got Kristen Lingham. I wish they would get on with it and start using XRP. I completely agree with that. Michael Hissey, do you see Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larson running for public office in the next 4 years? Who knows? Anything's possible, I guess. But I think they have their hands full with what they're working on right now, which is changing the financial structure of the banking industry. So I don't see them actually, in my opinion, I don't see them moving away from their business into public office. Although public office could be a great idea. Hang on, let me pause here. There's feedback on that computer. I got it over here. I'm good. Oh, okay. You can monitor on the other. I didn't see that, sorry. Okay, awesome. Thanks. I got my helpers in the other room monitoring everything that's going on. So, Now, this is really interesting. Again, let's go back to the one coin, one use case. And if we think about it from a corporate perspective, the focus of a company, can it be that this one digital asset, that the blockchain can do everything for every purpose? And I want to use Google as an example because I think that this is a very important example to look at. Now, Google, we think, hey, you know what? They dominate and control pretty much everything in our daily lives. When you go online, Google is the premier company out there right now, but they're not always successful in every single endeavor that they've engaged in. And there's a ton of projects that Google initiates that fail. A lot of their projects that they shut down before they even come to public, but there's also quite a few projects that they have brought to public that they've shut down. And there's two perfect examples right now of very large projects that Google has tried to get into, and amazingly, they were not able to really penetrate the market share. So number one with Google is social media. All right, so Google Plus. Google Plus is now a defunct platform. They're shutting down Google Plus as it has been. They tried everything they could with Google Plus to compete with Facebook, but nobody really adopted Google Plus as a true means of communication as a social media platform. The other is the video chat. And so they tried to take on the likes of Skype, and really, I thought for years Skype was dropping off the face of the earth. Also, when you have WhatsApp coming out, and you have others. Google still has Duo out there. I don't know too many people that talk about using Duo, or if they're using it, or if it's running in the background of the Android app. But the point here is that they can't do everything. They're not necessarily going to be successful in doing everything. And eventually, when they're not successful in a direction, they're going to shut it down. But really the lesson that we're going to take from Google here is you have to focus on what you do best. Now, Google obviously is an amazing search engine. They're an ad revenue machine. They have a great email platform overall that's open to the masses. And they've also done something that nobody else could really do, and that was really conquer Microsoft's monopoly, not only over the operating system space, but also over the Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and if you engage and utilize the Google platforms for Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, it's amazing, and they're constantly developing it. So this is their strength. There's certain areas they tried to compete against Facebook and all of those others. They just couldn't do it. So again, we really have to think again. Is there a focus? We understand that you can't be good at everything, and you need to drive in the direction of your strengths. Let me take a minute here. Let's look at some of these comments as we're going on. Let's see here, Michael. Kristen Lingham, I hear an exchange has purchased a small bank. I think that would be an awesome idea. I'm not sure if you know which exchange that has done that, but there's certain things that need to be done. If you have to get through certain government regulation, the fastest way to getting into that space would be to buy into it. So an exchange buying a small bank would put them in the banking business, and so I think that could be important. That's an interesting point. Let's see. Once they change the structure of the financial industry, they will be incredibly famous. I think so too. I think there's going to be running for president. I still don't know if they would run for president, but that's always a possibility. Once you step into the political space, it's a completely different world. You see, there's tons of things that go behind the scenes. I've been working and involved in politics, kind of on the sideline for a long time, and it's amazing, what you see out there and how people really badmouth the people that will actually take their time to run for office, and so many good people out there won't run for office because they're afraid that when they do, they're going to just be smeared by the media, smeared by the other side, and it really disrupts people's families. So a lot of there's amazing candidates out there, or potential candidates that have never run for office because of that. Why do you think XRP is going down? To me, and I think this is a good point, because. And I've discussed this on other videos when it comes to the movement of XRP, and so the XRP value as it has increased, and really the investment, to me, it's still a very speculative investment, as are most digital assets, or all digital assets. Is all very speculative. The market is speculative. XRP is unique because it's being utilized by XRapid, which is part of the RippleNet solution for full real world utility. I believe, although there's a ton of good news happening in the RippleNet space, we're still waiting for full utility of XRapid, which would then be a full utility of XRP. And I think that's what's being, we're at that point now where without utility, there'll still be some speculative moves in the marketplace as Bitcoin goes up, as the market trends towards more on the bullish side. I think we'll see all of the top digital assets move up as well. Again, that's based on speculative investment. XRP, in terms of bigger gains, it's going to fall back into utility, and I believe, in my opinion, that's really what's been holding it back. Let's see. Okay, let me jump back into this, and I'll answer some of these other questions. So now, really going to the Hutchins example of Bitcoin, it really Bitcoin itself, has the fundamental appearance of a transactional digital asset, but it really doesn't have the core technology for being an efficient transactional digital asset. And I think that's really what's coming to light. And so this goes back to my premise of one coin, one use. The strength of Bitcoin is really as digital gold, as a store of value. It's been talked about, but that's really I think that's really what we're seeing with Bitcoin. And we're seeing a lot of those the online marketplaces that initially wanted to adopt digital assets as a standard of transaction, and those that started utilizing Bitcoin, people aren't going to use it, especially now when the values are down. People are trying to hold and invest, and so they're not going to necessarily utilize Bitcoin if Bitcoin jumps up to a high point. But still, you have the transactional issues that are part and really are highlighted within Bitcoin as an issue for a mainstream as a mainstream transactional digital asset. Now, XRP, on the other hand, is spendable. It is transactional. It is adaptable with full transparency and full efficiency. We know that XRP can be moved fast. It can be moved at low cost. However, XRP has really been identified as a cross-border payment solution. Not only was it identified as that, but really it was developed to be utilized in large-scale transaction. That's my opinion. It's been adopted by multiple solutions for the large-scale payments. Obviously, RippleNet is the largest real-world utility case for XRP. It also has the potential being used for micropayments. We see like XRP Tipbot, Coil. There's other examples developing and coming to light now as more and more are going to adopt technology where you can see how XRP can be used. But the strength of the digital asset is really on the inner ledger, the XRP ledger. It has the native exchange platform to easily convert to any fiat or digital asset. And this is really a strength that's being embraced for cross-border payments. So again, if we want to come back to the one coin, one use, and I'll get more into it. Conversion to other currencies, this is important, and I think the utility behind the XRP ledger and being able to use XRP in the cross-border payment space for settlement, for liquidity, converting into other currencies easily and quickly, being able to lock in the exchange rates so you don't have to worry about necessarily fluctuations in digital asset value or fiat currency exchange. And so these are all very important things. And really, again, the XRP being adopted, through XRapid, and just to finalize a thought on this, for the liquidity and for global transactions, and it goes back to the question, what's really impacting the price point, and it's going to be utility adoption on a global scale by more and more of the financial institutions, by more and more of the banking. On the banking side, to start utilizing XRapid, and that's where we're going to start seeing some movement. But the strength of XRP could also potentially be its weakness for daily transactions in the mainstream side of things. So there have been comments that in this space in regards to is XRP let's call it the banker's coin? And would it then be the utility and the liquidity needed by the financial space, which is in the trillions of dollars per day in transactions? Would it tie up all of the full liquidity use and need of XRP? And would the banks and the financial institutions that are making all these big global transactions, would they really want XRP to be used for the smaller transactions? So it very well could be that the strength of XRP then is geared towards B2B digital assets. It's geared for large-scale transactions. It's on the B2B side. It's geared towards large-scale B2C transactions. So this could be in the tens of or hundreds of millions of dollars on the B2C side as well. And really, maybe it's not meant for the smaller P2P or B2C transactions, which would be the day-to-day type transaction. Now, in my opinion, the market always pushes and pulls, and the outcome is really going to be determined by the demand in the marketplace, but also the utility of the product. So if the product doesn't fit that space and there's something that might be a little bit easier to use, or maybe, again, it's geared for that, it's primary purposes for that space, then that could very well be what's going to determine and dictate the direction of this one coin, one use thought. And I'll get into that a little bit more. Let me take a moment here. Let me look at some of these comments. Will the sale of Earthport affect Ripple XRP? You know what? That's a great point. I don't really have an answer for that. I think we're gonna have to just wait and see what happens. Let's see here. Sorry, the screen is small. Henswill 89. Why do you think XRP is going down? I answered that one. Let's see. Maybe Brad can apply his peanut butter manifesto to the U.S. government. I think that would be an awesome idea. If we need something, and there's a ton of fat in government that needs to go. And it's crazy in the government space. And you've seen some of my videos. I talk a lot about now I've been really focused in on the bills that are being presented by and proposed by various congressmen, and I'm really trying to stay on top of what's happening at the state level as well. But it's really amazing, when you think about how the bills are proposed, how they're put together, and we just saw the government shutdown and the debates and everything going back and forth on this, and there's so much wasted time and so much wasted effort and so much wasted space in government, not just from an elected side of it, but just in general. There's just too much waste. Everything is dragged down to it's too slow. It's just too bogged down. And I agree. I would like to see a complete revamp of what's happening over there. And that even filters into taxes and what goes on in general within the government space. But that's a whole different conversation. So now, one coin, one use. And I think this is interesting because XLM, the Stellar coin, is really the other side of XRP. And I know there's some controversy within the XRP community as to whether or not we can even really talk about XLM and Stellar. Is it beneficial? Is it doing something unique? And what XLM, and I believe it serves as a counterbalance and a complementary way to XRP. So again, one coin, one use, looking at XRP as the B2B coin, XLM on the other side, more in the micro payment side. And that's really, they developed the Stellar and Stellar as a nonprofit organization, and XLM as their digital asset, developed specifically for the small micro payment needs, and really to approach the third world countries. And putting together what's needed. And so that's their mission statement. That's their goal. But it does serve as a nice counterbalance. So from a bank's perspective, on the banking side, if you want to get those that rely on small payments and small movements of money, and you want the large movements of money, you have a nice really a nice interaction between the XRP, which would go through, let's say, RippleNet, and then you have XLM for the smaller purposes. That's kind of my opinion, but it really serves to show that one coin, one purpose idea. Now, again, this is the question, and I really like you guys to think about it. I want you guys to figure out, throw some comments, because as we move more and more in this direction, I think this really comes to light that we need one coin, one purpose. And so here's some other examples. And so we look at the logistics space for shipping, movement of goods during the manufacturing process, movement of goods through a sales process, inventory tracking, whether it's movement of inventory or the use or the sale of the inventory. Another perfect use case, tracking produce, perishables, being able to quickly identify, let's say, the source of a salmonella outbreak, being able to track it back rapidly, tracking collectibles and assuring the authenticity of the product and potential mechanism to verify ownership. These are all great blockchain use cases, tying in a digital asset through the transactional mechanism of this. Is there or should there be, again, something that's focused? Should there be a specific collectible blockchain with a specific collectible digital asset in the tracking mechanism of it, and even in the trading of it? Should it be set aside and be different? I don't necessarily have an exact answer to it, but my thought process in this conversation today, anyways, has been based on that one coin, one use, really stemming from the idea of what was discussed on Bitcoin and also with XRP. Now, another use case, military, obviously financial transactions is huge. We've already discussed that. We already know that part of it. What happens in video games? Video games is such a huge industry, and the video game industry could really use one set digital asset to allow for transactions of and the buying and the selling of the components that you win in the various games, but being able to transact with other individuals. Obviously, there's websites right now dedicated to that you can do through PayPal, you can do through whatever, but it would be nice to be able to, if you spend all your time and effort in one video game collecting something, to be able to get value out of that and maybe sell that, but then take whatever monies that were earned from your time spent, and somebody else wants the goods that you earned all this time collecting in that video game, but then be able to transition that over to another video game or maybe even another platform. So if you were on PlayStation, you want to move to Xbox, you want to move it over to your Android system, why shouldn't that currency follow you? And I think with Fortnite, there was some discussion, I believe it was Monero or another that was going to be utilized in Fortnite. So another good one would be health records, and health records so critical in the medical space, and there's so much that goes on from payments, and I'm talking about if you're out of the country and you want to be able to spend and utilize health credits with a doctor because you're traveling, or if there's a specialist in another country. The U.S., we got tons of specialists in the U.S., but people in other countries, can't gain access to our doctors in the US for consult unless they fly here. But why not be able to do that remotely, be able to consult with that doctor and pay them through some form of a healthcare digital asset credit, tracking of your health records. All of our health records belong to us. They shouldn't belong to the hospital or the doctor's office or the imaging center where we had them. So these are great use cases of the blockchain. But again, what about the spendable side of it? There's so many use cases, so many potential possibilities, not just of the use case, but again of that digital asset of the one coin, one use. Or maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you get an XRP and it becomes the standard. It becomes the spending standard, and everything that transacts online in that case becomes an XRP token. I mean, that's definitely possible as well. Let me go back to some of the comments here. Let's see. Stanley, you should have more followers. I'm subscribing. I appreciate that. It takes time and effort. I try not to fluff it up too much. I try to really stay focused on important topics. It's interesting. I started putting a video together on it. I think Oz Crypto had talked about something about he had done a video on subscribers and putting YouTube videos together and attracting and whatnot. And one thing that I've noticed, and I find it's interesting, it's all psychological, and I fall for it as well. And I was reading an article earlier, and I was looking at the headline. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is on this, that they posted this article with this headline. I'm never going to read it from this publication again because of the headline. And I go and read the article. I'm like, oh, okay, that article actually made sense. And so I've done that on some of my videos as well. I guess that's just the clickbait, I guess you call it, to get somebody to get upset enough to read it or watch the video. I try not to give fluff. I like, when it really, you make people think. This is a space that I've been in now. What is it? It's like a year and a half. I love this digital asset space. There's so much to learn. I've learned so much from it. I would love to have, more people following, subscribing, commenting, providing feedback. But again, I'm not gonna just fluff it up, just to attract subscribers to come in. But I would definitely love for people to subscribe and follow. So share whatever you can share. XRP Zoo. Actually, I had a conversation yesterday, and I am going to be on the XRP Zoo on Monday, February 4th. I had a meeting this coming Monday, so won't be able to attend. But yeah, February 4th. XRP Zoo, I'll be on. So definitely check it out. Definitely looking forward to that. This whole live stream thing is brand new for me. It was the discomfort of going live and knowing that you have to interact live without being able to take a break or edit something out because you said something that you didn't like. So it's a little bit different, and I kind of like it. So I'm going to try to do a live stream early every Saturday morning. I'll probably go a little bit earlier. So anyhow, any other questions? Let's see. We've got what's up, Mike? Bryant Marshall. Do you think XRP will have a fixed price? Man, I honestly don't think that it will have a fixed price. It's not a stable coin. Obviously, within the markets, especially if you when we look at penny stocks, for instance, it's so easy with penny stocks to manipulate with FUD and FOMO. And I'm talking about in the regular stock market, when you have low price stocks, and you see a lot of manipulation on that side of it. On the XRP side, and like with Bitcoin, there's so much talk right now of manipulation. I believe that they're holding down the value of XRP. I just think that it's happening. I think that it's even from a media release perspective, there's a lot of great things that are happening behind the scenes. I don't think that Ripple is going to give us everything. They're not telling us every single organization that's getting ready to adopt XRapid. Once it's for sure, once that organization is ready to launch the press release, then it goes into the public sphere. But going back to that question, I really don't think that they're going to suppress, and or you're not going to see a fixed price on the XRP. It's in the market space right now. So if the market believes that it needs to be in a fixed price point, but without hands-on manipulation of the digital asset, you're not going to really be able to fix that price. I believe that's my opinion on it as well, and I think that would be backed up by the technology. I'm not a programmer, and so I could be completely off base with that. But from a financial perspective, being that it's already an open platform and it's not a fixed, it's not a stable coin, then I believe it's going to fluctuate based on the market, and the market's going to dictate the price point. So let's see what else we have here. That's yeah. I definitely appreciate that. I'm looking forward to going on. It'll be first time on their show. So we've been communicating back and forth. So Brian, you've heard other opinions on fixed price. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot out there. Let's see, Mike, what will, let's say, TTA on the 14th allow us to do? I might have missed that. What are we referring to? TTA? So while we wait for that, let me go down. So I skipped over a little part here. I try to keep myself on track with some bullet points here. So I want to look at some of the the Token Tax Act. Okay, so that's interesting. You have the Token Taxonomy Act. There's so much being proposed right now, and I know that Dr. Warren Davidson's office and Darren Soto's office, they're working overtime to get out their newly tweaked version of the bill from the 115th Congress. So we saw the HR 7356 which is the Token Taxonomy Act. That is being revamped. There's going to be some new language in it. I know, just from conversation that the attorneys, they've got to look over everything. So all of the legal experts that specialize in the digital space, they want to make sure, really, when they present this bill, that every I is dotted, every T is crossed. It has to be perfect. They don't want any language in it that could potentially be misconstrued, misunderstood, or maybe even having the bill that they're proposing just dismissed because maybe there's a misunderstanding in the definition of the digital asset as an example. There's so much happening, the momentum right now in Congress, and this is really why, if you go back and watch some of my videos, my goal was to start a grassroots initiative to get the people out, to start reaching out to your congressman, talk about the importance of the digital asset space. And the congressmen can only do so much. Their staff can only do so much. Because if you think about Davidson's office and Soto's office, they have a legislative team. They have their legislative staff. I've spoken to the legislative staffs from each office. There's a couple other congressmen I'm planning on reaching out to. I wanted to reach out to those that were actively involved in proposing bills. I haven't reached out to Emmer's office yet. I will. But the thing is that they have to educate the staff and the congressperson in each of the committees. So you have the Financial Services Committee and you have the Commerce. And so the Economics and Commerce? I don't know why I'm blanking out on this for some reason. But so let's look at the Financial Services Committee. Each of the Congress people that sit on that committee have to be convinced and convince means they need to be educated that digital assets are important, that the bills that are being proposed by Soto and by Davidson and by Emmer are moving everything in the direction of mainstream adoption, and mainstream adoption is real. And these Congress people have to listen. So to educate them, Davidson's office, Soto's office, Emmer's office can only do so much. The true education comes from the grassroots effort. So there's a list. I've been working on getting this list fine-tuned. This week has been a little bit hectic, but I am almost finished with an Excel spreadsheet with every one of the congressional representatives that sits on the committees that these bills are being put in front of. I'm putting obviously you can go on to Twitter and find the person's Twitter, but I'm putting the Twitter for each of the congressional reps that are on the committee. I then will plan on putting a link directly to their email. Their office phone numbers in Washington are going to be there. So really what it's going to take is a grassroots initiative to send tweets, to send emails, to make phone calls, and the more of us that do that, I'm also looking really to reach out to find someone that can help, and we talked about this a little bit, to put together an educational type video, not necessarily in like a cartoonish form, but something. If you think about, back in school, they had I can't remember what they called them. It was like the bill. There was a cartoon, and how does a bill become a law? And I vaguely remember it. I just kind of remember that the bill, walking around. Although I keep thinking of was it from South Park, Towley? So I don't know, but anyhow, so if there's someone out there that has the skill set to put together some form of has the graphics abilities, or knows how to do that side on the video side, we can put together the informative material, put them together. But that's definitely needed. And so a short, like 1 to 2 minute video to really spotlight, here's why cryptocurrency, in their mindset, or digital assets, blockchain, here's why it's needed in the mainstream, here's what we need to do to make it easy, make it palatable for these congressmen to sign on as co-sponsors of Davidson Soto bills. Not only sign on as co-sponsors, but actually pass it through committee. So these bills have to be passed through committee in order for them to go to Congress to vote on. Once they go through Congress, Senate, then they end up on Trump's desk to be signed off on. We also don't want these bills that are being proposed to have all sorts of extra fluff, coming from these congressmen. Say, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to throw in, whatever, junk that I want to put into the bill, because we think, hey, everybody wants the digital asset, so I'm going to hide something in it. And we don't want some congressman, coming along and trying to, hide something else in. It's such a critical bill. And we're talking about changing the Securities Act of 1933 and 34 and the Internal Revenue Act of 1986. I mean, we're talking about, ancient bill or laws that are on the books right now that they're trying to plug digital assets into, and it just doesn't work. And that's why Davidson and Soto and Emmer, and there's many others on the list, but again, it's going to take our grassroots initiative to make this happen. Let me go back to some of the comments here. Let's see. Stan. Okay. Let me go from the top here. So Bryant Marshall, once regs come, how fast do you think XRP will move? I honestly, that's a tough question. It's based on utility. I think once and I believe that a lot of the banks in the US and worldwide are waiting for regulation, but regulation only has so much time. The SEC has to, they have to finalize, they have to do something. If they don't do something now, and Davidson has said it, Soto has said it, Emmer has said it, and Soto just spoke out about it not too long ago, the US is slipping behind. We're going to be, at the bottom. The rest of the world is going to take off in the digital asset space. We used to lead, we led the revolution on the internet, changing everything. And now we're going to be, at the back of the line. And that's not where we need to be. this movement is truly revolutionary in this technology, and the U.S. has to be a leader in this technology. And right now, the regulation is definitely tying up decisions for cross-border payments. But I think that, as you saw, someone had mentioned earlier that one of the exchanges bought a bank. That's a way around it as well. Now you're a bank. Now you've got everything, and it's easier to integrate once you're a bank, because if you're applying to become a bank, the government's going to say, well, I don't know if I'm going to give you a license to be a bank. Well, you know what? We just bought a bank, so now we're a bank. Same thing, and it's easier to transition to license once you own that entity between your own owned companies. So let's go down here. Let's see. Stanley, you and Crypto Investigative Reports should do a show together. I don't know Crypto Investigative Reports. I've seen them online. You have the same informative style, real news, no bullshit. I appreciate that. That would be awesome. I would like to do another joint video. Oz Crypto and I have tried to hook up, multiple times to do something together, and timing just never meshed, especially since he's like, 13 hours ahead of us, or 12 hours on the other side of the world. But I would definitely be open to that if Crypto Investigative Reports is out there and we want to hook something up. That would be awesome. Mike G, Wyoming and Colorado seem to be leading. You know what? That's awesome. And that makes such a great point. Certain states out there, they get it, right? So Wyoming, Colorado, Ohio. But you know why they get it is because they've been struggling for years to attract people in terms of a job market. I mean, Wyoming. I'm not sure what the population of Wyoming is. We could look it up. It's not that much. There's a whole area in the middle section, especially kind of in that Northwest territory, mid-Northwest, and Central, and there's just not a huge population there, mainly because of weather. But you know what? With this revolutionary technology and the fact that their representatives get it at the state level, and they're going to push through specific regulation at the state level. And again, grassroots doesn't necessarily mean just us, because at the state level, that's a little bit of an easier, I want to say, maybe look at it as a speed bump. Overall regulation is a speed bump, but getting to your state rep is easier than getting to your congressperson. So if you go to your state senate rep, that is, typically they're going to be in your local community. And so working with them and going and lobbying them on your own. I've kind of specced out a number in this area that I'm going to start talking to. And I've really thought about that what does it take as an initiative to move more and more states? So as states begin to adopt the digital assets, and the states move into this direction to say, hey, you know what, we want this as mainstream, the Fed is going to have to follow suit. They can't be overdone by the states. So if the states say, hey, I'm going to accept Bitcoin for tax, or, I want to normalize regulation on this because I want to attract more companies into my space, and I want more jobs in Wyoming. I want more jobs in Colorado. So we're going to make it crypto friendly. And so we see other countries around the world, like Switzerland and some of the real small countries that nobody even knew existed. And I think Digital Asset talks about Liechtenstein, Estonia for the past couple of years has talked about something. Well, you could basically apply for citizenship. It's like an e-citizenship sort of, and you can apply to be an e-citizenship for financial reasons, for business reasons. So it's easier to open and own a business there. But Estonia is moving in the direction of being digital friendly, digital asset friendly. So there's a lot of countries that get it. They say they see the writing on the wall, and they say, hey, you know what? We've been at the bottom of the heap economically in terms of the world. How do we take that initiative and move forward? So countries are doing it, states are doing it, and the Fed they're just bogged down because they're too big. too big. Their focus is all over the place. Why don't we just cut the size of government in half, and then maybe they'll be a little bit more focused on getting jobs done instead of just wasting time and money, which seems to be what they're really good at the government level, is just wasting time and money. Now let me go back here. I'm planning on wrapping up the video in a little bit, and so let's answer a few more here. This is a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed doing the live stream. I didn't know what to expect, and I was kind of pushed into doing it. We were going to do one last night. We were testing it out, and we almost did a live stream last night around 11. I said, no, I'm not going to do it at 11 o'clock at night. Let's try to do it in the morning. So Bryant Marshall, Colorado has to use cash for their pot transaction. That's great. That's exactly right. Banks won't, even though they've passed it legally, they can't. They have to. Everything has to be in cash. They can't get credit. They are bank accounts, credit cards. None of that works. So cryptocurrency is really the perfect use case for them to make that work. I think that's a great point. And I'll tell you guys what, this was a lot of fun. I got to figure out now, take this live stream and make it, as soon as we end the live stream, put it out there available for views. Got to make some tweaks to that. But I really believe that all of this has long-term viability. The technology, really, it's just getting started, and the uses are really endless. And so, man, this was great. I truly appreciate everybody logging on today. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you want to share it with your friends, share the channel with your friends that want to learn more about this space. If you have any connection with any of the other YouTubers and you think there'd be a good chance of us working together and doing videos together, that'd be awesome. I've been in communication with quite a few. And really getting to do something live is great. Again, check it out. The XRP Zoo on February 4th. I'll be on with those guys. So until the next live stream, I have a couple other videos that I'll post. I'm going to try to get another live stream out next Saturday, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys then. Thanks for joining.